Welcome back, everybody.
And we have a guest today. We're just going to get right to him. Alejandro Ocaña
Yep, Junior.
Jr., better known as Tumex, or also known as Tumex.
Word up, yes. Thank you for having me.
Dude, thanks for coming, man. And so here at Higher Vibrations, we are all things, energy, spirituality, todo ese pedo, bro. And, Thanya is, she said, hey, man, we got to get this dude on here. He's just a super interesting person, and just talking to you, I'd never met you before,
Right.
but just talking to you before we started here, I'm like, man, this dude's, not only has he been around, but you're insightful as hell, bro.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that, being invited and participating. You know what I mean? I'm happy.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
So now a little bit about your background, bro. You are by definition, underground rapper is how you started off. Is that right?
Yeah. I'm a hip hop recording artist. I was born in East LA.
Okay.
And I grew up in Mid City. So I'm from La Brea in Washington area.
Okay.
That's where I grew up my whole life.
Right there by the 10.
Yep, right there, right when I used to be hookers and everything. Whole stroll.
That's
the motels right there.
The whole stroll.
The whole stroll in Washington and La Brea, man. I grew up right there.
I actually lived on Fairfax and Pico for a minute. So
a lot of my good people right there.
That's right there by
Meaty
Little
Meat Burgers.
by Little Ethiopia.
Yeah. Oh, the Mercado.
Yeah, right.
I love that place.
Yeah,
bro.
right around the corner from there. I lived there for a little bit. Not too long, but I did live around there.
I haven't eaten there in a year. I love that place, man. Mercado, that whole little area. Yeah.
That whole little area there. Yeah, dude, that Ethiopian food is a trip. I had never experienced it, but when they bring it to you and it's like they have these like basically like tortillas, right?
It's like a cold pancake.
Like the naan that you pick it up
Yeah.
with.
Is it a naan?
Yeah,
Is that
it's
what
like
it
a
is?
naan.
It's like a naan. Yeah, I forget the name
To me,
of
it's
it.
like a cold pancake.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
But it's still, you grub on all the spicy little sides and stuff.
Yeah.
And I would get a fish all the time. They would make the most perfect fish. Just a fish with a squeeze of lemon. Es todo lo que necesitas.
I've never had the fish there. I've had everything else because it's mostly like vegetarian.
Mostly
like a lot of
vegetarian,
vegetarian
Yeah, a
stuff.
lot of spicy
Yeah.
stuff and stuff. Yeah.
But you guys were there before the gentrification. You guys were there
yeah.
before. I mean, if it was the whole stroll, and I don't know. Not anymore,
yeah.
guys.
My homie used to put me up. We used to go there because they used to have Ethiopian wine.
Oh.
Honey wine.
Okay.
And back in the early drinking days, it was like, wow, honey's and wine, you know what I mean? Or like,
Wow.
I need to get this, So, yeah.
It was good.
Oh, super good.
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
have that.
Yeah.
Well, that's a
Ethiopian honey wine. And they're cheap. It's like $15 a bottle in there.
Oh, that's
Dang.
fantastic.
Yeah. So I used to kick it there a lot in that area. And I used to eat that fish. I like Ethiopian food a lot.
Yeah, no,
you
it's
know? Yeah.
bomb. But yeah, the you go down the street, you got the farmers market. But that area you were talking about on Brea and Washington, that's a whole nother animal right there, bro.
Yeah, well, it got gentrified. My parents still live there, but it got gentrified. But it used to, when we were little, I always told stories of how we used to play baseball on the street with the hookers. Like we'd be like 7 years old playing baseball, and a hooker would be like, "Let me show you how to bat, baby." And he'd be like, my dad be pulling in from work.
The hookers got big hearts.
Dude.
Got big hearts.
Well,
It's for the kids.
It's for the kids.
It was when the hookers were it was before crack. So it was like, hookers looked good back then.
Shit, this was the 80s then.
Yeah. I'm an 80s kid. So, my dad would be pulling in from work and he'd see like a hooker trying to teach me how to bat. He'd be like, what the? Be like, go in the house. You know what I mean? So I was like.
And you probably had no idea that it was a hooker, or did you?
No, you knew they were hookers.
You knew they were hookers.
They used to pay it. When we were little kids, the hookers would pay you to, because there was a whole bunch of motels right there.
Mm-hmm.
From La Brea to Redondo, or, right there was just 4 or 5 motels. So it was a lot of hooker stuff going on. So, yeah, they would, you knew they were hookers, brother, standing on the corner. It was that whole thing. You know what I
Just
mean?
like I was a
Even
little
as
kid,
a-
I wasn't blind. Like,
It
come
was
on.
as a little kid,
the hookers would pay me and my homies. They would be like, there was a liquor store out there called Liquorama. They would be like, go to Liquorama and tell whatever the guy's name is that so and so wants a beer. And dude, I would be at 7 walking to the liquor store, brown bagging a beer, and the hooker would give me $1 for a Coca-Cola or a chocolate. Or
That's
something.
fantastic.
So I was running.
You're running
errands
your
for
messenger
hookers.
service right there
I
for
was
the hookers.
delivery service for hookers
Nice.
at a young age. So you learn street smarts.
I grew up in Wilmington, California.
Word.
So
I got a lot of people out there.
That's that was pretty hood, and I used to buy cigarettes at the store for my grandmother when I was about maybe 8 years old.
There was no laws back then,
dude.
bro.
You'd go. You'd buy the pack of cigarettes. I'd get a quarter for a freaking candy bar or whatever the hell it was, and then and then growing up as a teenager, there were plenty of places where you could buy alcohol and nobody carded you.
Yeah.
Plenty of places that we would go.
I missed that. I missed that mark because I think that I grew up in Linwood, right?
Okay.
So I'm from the hood, right?
And Linwood's pretty.
I'm from the hood. I was
There's
like
a whole store on Linwood.
Yeah,
somewhere.
right on Long Beach. There's an Atlantic.
There was, I remember.
But they wouldn't sell you liquor.
Oh.
You could get ass. You couldn't get liquor.
We had our hookers on PCH and on Anaheim.
Oh.
So
Okay.
there was a Smart and Final in Anaheim. I don't think it's there anymore. Anaheim and Island. There was and there was some hookers there. This was in the 80s for sure, and even into the early 90s. And then PCH over where the Comet Motel between.
It's always around motels.
Yeah,
Right.
There's
Our thing was based around motels.
between Figueroa. On PCH between Figueroa and Wilmington Boulevard, you could find the hookers, and they were all those were pretty much the crack hookers.
I think that was the main Figueroa, just in general.
Yeah, all our hookers were also crack hookers. They weren't
yeah.
playing baseball. They were all cracked out.
Yeah.
But it was like the 90s, right?
Oh, okay.
It was
The
like-
80s. I mean, it was like before crack and then after crack. You saw after crack how it got really crazy too. You know what I mean? But I grew up in that. I'm 47, so like I grew up in right there in watching the crack go down. You know what I mean?
And then when did you start rapping, bro?
I started making music in, I'd say 91. My dad
30 years ago.
Yeah. My dad played. My dad Alejandro Senior plays keyboards, plays guitar. He writes short stories. Apparently, I didn't know this because I was little and wasn't paying attention. But apparently, my dad did like community theater and all. My dad was like really artistic guy, right? And I just never. But you're a kid. You don't pay attention to your. My dad just sitting in the kitchen playing keyboards for years. So I never paid attention to it. But I think that's just what I wanted to do. And so I started making music right when I was getting out of high school. And man, I just fell in love with it. And right from my first band of Mexico, it was called A Mexican Descent. My first band, the first time we ever rapped in a party, someone wanted to manage us. So I think right off the top, we were always getting attention, you know what I mean?
What year was this, dude?
1991.
Yeah. Who was like inspiring you at that time? Like who were you listening to thinking, damn, that person
I was
badass.
already because I grew up watching MTV and all that, Joe MTV Raps and all that, and K-Day, So I really was already into the East Coast stuff, you know what I mean? Like the KRS-One and the Boogie Down production, like the more intelligent kind of, I guess I would say pro-black rappers.
Okay.
I was into really like the political black Public Enemy rappers.
I was just gonna say Public Enemy then.
And I wanted to, and I was like, where's the Mexican version of this? Kid, with all due respect to Kid Frost and the Lighter Shade of Brown and the first wave of Chicano hip hop, I was not super into it. Me and Kid Frost are friends now. I love Kid Frost, but like that guy's the G. I didn't realize how much of a OG he was because I was just only exposed to This Is For La Raza or whatever. But Kid Frost, Lighter Shade of Brown, I wasn't into that first wave of Mexican rap. I was more into like the political East Coast black rap.
And who was the other dude that had that huge hit? Mellow Man Ace.
Mellow Man. Oh yeah,
with
all
Mentirosa.
of them. Yeah, Mentirosa. ALT with Tequila and all that. The Latin Alliance.
Alliance.
Julio G. Linwood. He's from Linwood.
He is from Linwood.
All those brothers. So there was a wave of Chicano hip hop, and I personally wasn't. I was kind of a little church boy, so I wasn't really
church boy, like Catholic, Christian.
Catholic.
Okay.
Yeah, St. Paul's, right there on Crenshaw and Washington. But so I wasn't into the first gangster. I wasn't into gangster rap. So I was just into political New York rap like that, and I just
You're like into intelligent rap.
yes,
Like
always,
with a purpose.
always right off the top. So then I was like, well, where's the Mexican guy that's
All
doing
right, so
this?
gangster rap could be intelligent too.
No, yeah, oh yeah.
But there's like a difference. There's like political rappers and like activists,
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
like gangster rappers, and then
I was captivated by X Clan. Have you ever heard of those brothers?
I can't
X
say that I
Clan.
have.
Yeah, they're. I mean, they were almost like Muslim Black Watch. Very like
wow.
that kind of stuff. For some reason, I was exposed to a group called Poor Righteous Teachers. I was exposed to this New York political KRS-One stuff.
the X Clan, aren't they the guys who came out with like with
East-
Brother Farrakhan, and
yeah,
they would like
I was into a lot of punk rock back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Like and also like some political
Minor Threat and all that.
definitely
kind of
Minor
good stuff.
Threat, and
Yeah.
also like guys like MDC, like Multi Death Corporation.
Yeah.
These guys were talking about
Jello Biafra. and all
Bro,
those-
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and you think about MDC talking about the government being for sale, GMOs in the Hershey bars, McDonald's killing kids with the corporate death burger, Ronald McDonald or some other corporate death burger. We're talking the 80s, and these guys were bringing awareness to this that everybody was just like, they're fucking crazy, they're lunatics. So it was a different genre, but it sounds like it was the same type of
well,
messages,
I grew up into new wave, so even in new wave, I mean, Bow Wow Wow and all that stuff.
Sure.
They were like talking about Disney's bad, and what I mean, like. I would hear it in waves. Whatever was on, I was a kid, so whatever MTV played, I was into it. So I was into 80s British new wave and stuff.
My God, MTV was big. Like that was like
it was
that
like
was
the Bible. So whatever,
dude, it was today's Spotify, for crying out loud, or YouTube.
Whatever it told you to play, whatever it even showed you, you would probably be on it.
I mean, that's what heavy metal made a killing because of those videos, and so did new wave with like guys like Duran Duran and Culture Club and all those people. The Cure,
Well, it even affected like fashion, right? Everybody wanted to dress like.
I think the 80s was just probably the great. I don't know what it is about the 80s, but even to this day, as we step 30 years later, the 80s is probably that influence never leaves. People keep wanting to have that 80s vibe, that good time.
Yeah.
And replicate it, right? They're trying to replicate it, but they can't get the same because it's so different now.
You can't get there anymore.
Do you know what's crazy is that when I was a kid growing up, one of the big shows on television was Happy Days. So it was, you got to figure, that was like the 70s and early 80s.
Making fun of blowing up the 50s.
Blowing up the 50s, right?
Yeah,
and then you had, once that happened, then you had the 50s, like people held on, like, even 57 Chevy was a big thing. Like the 50s was that Americana,
cool.
Yeah, like and like you had all the shows, like your Leave It to Beavers and all that, where everybody wanted the feel good of the 50s. We had just gotten out of the World War. We're like, everybody's like America, and everything's pride and God and family values and racism, and it's crazy because let's be honest, that's what it was.
Even, I mean, look at the Stray Cats.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were 80s, but yet they were kind of like still with that coolness of the 50s.
Throwing it back then. And so then you got the 50s and the 60s were like, wait a minute, fuck all this shit that they told us in the 50s. This is crazy talk. This is unrealistic. Like, and the hippies were basically screaming, like, we're killing the planet. You had the dude Timothy Leary, basically
with the acid.
Basically, every university had an LSD program. Every Ivy League college had, and this dude was saying, "Fuck what they're telling you to do." Like what was it?
Tune out and tune in. Tune out and tune in, right?
Yes.
Tune in, tune out, and turn on.
There you go.
I remember
Damn,
that.
good freaking memory, brother. And
I'm a student for sure.
And so this dude was basically saying, like, hey man, all this crap that they told you had to do, like, get rid of it, man. Just go out there and live your best life. And it was going to cost the universities a ton of money if people listened to this message. So they literally villainized LSD, the hallucinogen. They villainized the hippies for sure. The marijuana, the Panthers. They villainized all that shit. And then you had the 70s where you had people were angry in the 70s. People were just angry. And you got to figure the Equal Rights Amendment had barely just started to get passed back then, right? And there was a lot of turmoil and change. And by the time the 80s came, people were just ready to put their, like, just say, go extreme. And it was a decade of decadence, you know. And
I think that's why it's so popular, because everybody wants that feel. The 80s seemed like it was okay to be wanting to be rich.
Yes.
Or wanting excess. It was like the one period of time.
The bigger the line of Coke was, the better.
Well, it came from
it wasn't
like
a bump.
all the
It was
repression,
a
right? Because like most of the people who went to Vietnam were like Bible Belt, right? It was the poor, the Bible Belt. You know, you're brought up to like serve your country, be scared of God, and then they go to Vietnam, and there's like pot and mushrooms and all kinds of stuff and hookers.
A lot of
and
heroin.
It's okay for you to be gay, and a lot of things happened.
Yeah.
So then they came back, and again, you're basically shit all over. So then they're angry. So then it turns into the 80s where it's like excess, right? Everything in excess.
Everything was in excess.
Everything.
And then visually, MTV, you know what I mean? Cable, you know what I mean? All of a sudden, you didn't have 4 channels to watch. You know, back then it was channel 2, 4, 5, 7.
And then the
9,
Mexican
11,
one,
and then
34.
Yeah, that's it. And now all of a sudden, this HBO and Z channel and on TV, and you know what I mean?
On TV.
Pornos,
Yes, with
you
the
know what I
squiggly
mean?
line and the titty
I mean,
every
don't
once in a while.
underestimate the fact that there was pornos.
I have no
on
clue
TV.
what on TV was.
It was before HBO.
It was on
cable.
TV and
Really?
Select TV.
And the Z channel, Select TV, yeah. It was basically a 1-channel cable thing,
Uh-huh.
but,
But it was porn?
at night they would show, basically soft porn or porn. And it was-
Showtime did that too, right? In the beginning, they would show
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
or
They still do.
Cinemax.
They still-
something
Cinemax, yeah.
showed soft porn.
Skinamax.
Skinamax, right?
So you're influenced by all that, and I was influenced by just MTV. Dude, Benny Hill, all the influence.
Benny
by
Hill,
Hill.
my
All the
God.
influence by
My grandma used to watch Benny
You
Hill.
could
I
not
can
have-
hear that, and I'm like, and I know what it is.
You could not you know how toxic, quote unquote, Benny Hill would be today? You try to
Yeah,
sell
he'd be
Benny Hill
banned.
today,
Oh no, you can't,
Bro.
Yeah.
No, he'd be banned.
he'd be canceled in a heartbeat. Benny Hill would
But
be
it was,
canceled.
it was that kind of stuff. I was just exposed to all that British stuff and just cable and everything, and growing up in LA right there, it's like you're Mexican, but yet you're into white culture, but yet you live in a black neighborhood, so then you're rap. I was everything all at once, man. I was like, I was confused.
But it's beautiful actually to
man.
have that much, like in retro, like at the time it
Yeah,
might have been
yeah,
overwhelming,
yeah.
but in retrospect,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
a beautiful thing
It's like
to have.
one minute you're listening to gangster rap, and then you're listening to the Bee Gees, you know what I mean? And then you're listening to this. And so it was, I took everything in it and was like, man, music wise, I needed to.
You said
do
you were
something.
like raised Catholic, right?
Yes.
So did you ever feel like you're listening to all these like political like rappers? Did you ever feel like indifference, like, oh, maybe this isn't like in church you're supposed to like take it all in and just
No,
be...
it guided me away from the church.
Okay.
That and a job. I was lucky enough to get a job at an early age. I was working at 13.
Oh, wow.
So it was like at a video store. That's another thing. You work at a video store, so now you're watching 7 movies a weekend. You know what I mean? It's like,
Bro, that'll expand your
it'll
mind.
expand your mind.
Big time.
I'm watching now. I'm watching independent films, trauma films. All this alternative
Porn films,
thoughts.
probably.
art house.
Art
probably,
house
right?
that's a great word. I think art house,
Art house.
is the biggest thing that happened to me, where I'm watching movies, I'm listening to music, I'm being exposed to what you would consider indie music, you know what I mean? And like there's a magazine called The Source magazine, which was a big rap magazine back then. So if that was like a Bible to me. So if it told you, check out this new group, I would immediately walk to the record
That
store.
was
and buy.
Benzino's, right? Benzino.
At one point, he owned it. Yeah, he owned it later in life, but yeah, he owned it
I
later.
did grow up in Linwood.
Yeah.
That's
But yeah,
all Linwood.
so I just overexposed to art, and then I just my dad. I'm sitting my dad's in the kitchen by himself. My dad's been in the kitchen for 30, 40 years, just playing music by himself.
Wow.
So I was just like, man, even though I wasn't paying attention to his stuff, it made me want to do stuff, and so I just started making music. And right off the top, we were pretty successful. So that's it. We just started like meeting Chicano rappers, Aslan Underground.
Underground, yeah, I totally remember that
They
name.
took us under their wing, kind of, and we're like, you guys are good rappers, but you don't know what you're They were like, you guys are good rappers, but your facts are wrong. And they're the ones that taught me, like, get your Chicano facts correct. don't just say anything. I remember I just said something about like Edward James Olmos or something randomly, and he was like, that guy's a Republican. Just because he's Mexican doesn't mean, something. So they taught me to like do your facts, and they were really important to me. Outside Underground's a major influence on me.
That's at that time. Also, all the colleges, the universities, especially like
Mecha started really kicking off.
I was just about to say that.
We were part of that too.
I was at Cal State LA for a bit in the 90s, and I was taking a lot of Chicano studies. I took history of Mexico, Chicano studies, Chicano literature over at Harbor College, and I was fascinated by it. So then when I transferred to Cal State LA, I took a lot of speech and communications classes, but I also kept taking the Chicano studies classes. And that really, and again, the Mecha movement was huge at that moment.
Yeah, we fell into that right there, 90, 91, 92. Outside Underground, once again, they all of a sudden we're performing at East LA College.
I went to East LA College in '96.
Oh, we used to play.
Did you?
East
I
LA
went
all
with the guys
time.
from Quinto Sol and all those
Those
guys.
are my brothers too.
Oh yeah, I know Martin and them.
Yep.
Now that whole thing, like the Mecha movement was a great. It was great to give these kids a little bit of perspective, a little bit of history, some pride, but it also ruined a lot of people that were in it. There was a politician back during I want to say the Pete Wilson era, Latino guy, and I can't remember his name to save my life right now, but he would have been governor. I think he was the lieutenant governor, but he could have been governor. But the reason that he wasn't is because they attached his college. He was in college in the 70s, and they associated him with Mecha.
Okay.
And Mecha basically on their I don't want to say their dogma, their doctrine, whatever you want to call it.
Manifesto.
Correct. Basically was saying that California is Aztlan, rightfully owned by Aztlan and the Mexicas, and that it will be taken back by any means necessary. That this is the rightful claim. And so they're saying, okay, this guy is inciting insurrection and taking, like, how in the hell are we going to put him in a political...
when he wants to give it back?
When he wants to take this back. And so they associated him to it, and it literally shut down his political career.
At that time, it was all new. You know what I mean? And Mecha, at times, Mecha was more of a party than a politics.
Than a militant political movement, absolutely.
Cal State Northridge, Mechas were, it was more of a party, you know what I mean? So, but we were still lucky to be part of it, you know what I mean?
It was beautiful. It was a beautiful thing. And again, it gave people, or it gave our people, not trying to be all fucking racist or exclusive here, but it gave Chicanos like a sense of purpose and pride, and because
most definitely,
because before that you were like literally on the outside looking in to mainstream America.
Well, I think it made you like really ethnocentric, right? Like it was a very like for Mexicans, for Latinos, by Latinos, like don't buy this, support us, and it made you more ethnocentric to your own race.
There was a lot of trial and error in that movement, but still it gave you a sense of some. There We didn't cross the borders crossed us.
No somos Hispanos. Hispanos is the la. Somos Chicanos and blah blah.
And so college was like full of the guys from Quinto Sol and Quetzal and all those people. A lot of good music came from that.
A lot of really good music.
At one point, all those guys were. At one point, I was in a band with all those guys.
Oh, really?
Really?
Quetzal, Olin.
Okay.
Olin.
Bro, I think I saw them.
Chiches Berinches. And all
I saw them.
La
Santa Cecilia.
Bro, I saw them at this underground. I want to say Aztec New Year over in the. I think it was the old county jail, and they had this basement underground thing.
Oh my
down
God, I
there.
went to a thing there. Yeah, it was
Did you?
in downtown of the old county. They used to have shows there.
The
Yeah.
4th of July.
Yeah.
That-
So,
so
used to do
Yeah.
the 4th of July there.
I went down there, and they had these. It was very progressive, and it was they were trying to raise money for the Zapatistas at the time, and there was these ladies, and they were doing this thing, and they were like, "I live." And then they're rattling some stuff, and they got sage burning, and this one chick comes out there, she goes, Chicana, lesbiana, blah, blah, blah. And she's just like, at the time, that was super progressive. You got to figure, this is the early 90s when this chick is saying that. And I mean, the LGBT community has gotten a lot, more accepted in recent times. But back then, it was still kind of borderline.
Very closeted.
And very closeted, especially to be a Chicana coming out like that. You would get shit on by a lot. I mean, there was still a lot of people that, well, you just got to fuck it out of you, you got to fuck the gay out of you. Like, there was still people saying crazy shit like that.
It was like, oh, why are you doing this? This is black people shit. Why are you doing? You know what I mean? We would get the first wave of us making music. It would be like, oh, this is a black thing, this and that, and or it'd be for us, my group of Mexican descent. It was like, well, you got to rap in Spanish, or everything needs to be like, you need to rap only over these oldies, and to me and my partner Danny, his name was Cholo Lancinco. Me and him were like, we wanted to not be in that box. So we were Chicano rappers, yet not Chicano rappers. There was many a time that we would get booked for, like, let's say car shows or something. But the music that me and Danny made was progressive and intellectual. And so even Chicano, we're rapping at car shows, and they're like, oh, this is not, they call you Tumex of Mexican descent, but you're not really like rocking this.
You're not Kid Frost.
You're
what
not,
are you doing?
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Can you make it more Mexican? Can you cholo it up for us a little bit?
And me and Danny over here rapping about the stars and the moon and fucking like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, me and Danny are like 17 rapping about Illuminatiism and the Behold the Pale Horse.
You're missing
and
the
shit
mark
like
with
that.
your audience.
Really?
Missing the
there.
mark. Oh yeah, we were on that.
Behold
so
the Pale Horse, homie, back then?
We were on. Oh, bro, we were on. Dude, that's why our music now is actually more
relevant,
heralded, because people are like, dude, I'm listening to you. I could play you songs that I did in 95 that we're talking about things that are happening now. And even us, we didn't think that it was like a prophecy. We were just paying attention to, I was going to see David Icke at airport conventions when I was like 18, 19. Dude, like I would just go to the airport. Yeah, I was like all in. One of my homies was in prison when I was young, and he got out of prison one day, and this was like in 91, 92, and he brought me a VHS 100 generation version of the guy from Behold a Pale Horse, William Cooper, speaking at a college. All really like, I mean, I'm talking about this video cassette had been dubbed like 50 times, and it was all scratchy, and you could barely see it. And that's where I first learned about that kind of stuff. And then I started buying, books and, Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and
I remember Holy Blood, Holy Grail. That was in the late 80s, early 90s. Yeah.
And then I learned
the town of René La Chateau.
Yeah, all that. I'll put it this way: in songs in 1994, 95, I was quoting that book, and I have a song where the whole chorus is what was written on that tombstone. Behold, I conceal the secrets of God.
That's and then they redid it with the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
But the Da Vinci Code is just that Holy Blood, Holy Grail, more commercialized.
So me and my partner were just into that, and so we were so into that.
That's some serious conspiracy theory shit.
We didn't
right
fit
there,
into the Chicano. Outside Underground accepted us, but we didn't really fit. It was a weird thing. We were like Chicano rappers, yet not Chicano rappers.
It wasn't mainstream Chicano.
No, not for a long, not, what we did was not even popular for a hot minute. And then everything I put out doesn't hit people till 4 or 5 years later.
Like an artist with a painting.
It's weird.
You know how like it'll hit later?
Yeah, like fucking.
All my records, they when they come out and they get reviewed and everything, they're like, it's okay. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then 5 years later, people are like, I have to have it. And I'm like, I don't have any more. When I had them, nobody wanted them. And then 5 years later, they're like,
Well, when I went to the last show, the one I told you that I saw you at, I took who's now my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, right? And he grew up in Hawaiian. He didn't know who you were. He grew up in Hawaiian Gardens. We went, but he knew who Brother Ali was, right? And then we went and we saw you, and he's like, "Oh my God!" And you did like some old songs, and he's like, "Is that new?" I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, but it talks about what's going on." I'm like, "I know, yeah. Like you got to listen to all his stuff."
Yeah, our stuff is like really. For some reason, we were just. But hip hop, good progressive hip hop has been like that. There's one of my favorite bands. They're called Organized Confusion. These guys were 16, 17 years old in '91, and in '91 he's saying, "In 2010, every man will be subject to global warming and millions of locusts swarming." I'm like, how are you? There's something about music that you are a vessel for the music. So it's like, man, the music makes me say things that I don't even fully comprehend. And then later in life.
So that's like a spiritual experience.
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
Did you write the lyrics?
Do I write all my lyrics?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've written all my lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never had anybody write anything for me, pretty much.
Not a collaboration with the other musicians?
No, I actually write for other people. I'm like
Nice.
a ghostwriter. Yeah. I write for
That's why his new
my
shirt
new album is
says-
called Ghostwriting Songs for God. That's my new album. I write songs for other people. Like,
Are you still Are you still Catholic?
Mm-mm.
Because I just heard you say for God. Like, how do you? I mean, what's your? When you say God, is it the traditional God that's sitting on the crown?
Or is it just because you have written for everybody and it's like I could even write for God?
I believe in God. I just don't think he looks like that. I don't, you know what I mean? I just don't believe. I believe in a higher power. I just don't believe that there is the people that say they know him. So I can't say I know him because I don't believe. I just believe that there's a higher power out there. But to name him and to say he's this white guy with a beard, you know what I mean?
Blue eyes, beard, long hair,
When he was in the desert and it was hot.
abs.
Well, if you read,
Abs.
if you read the Bible and then you read the Quran and then you read all the Torah, all that stuff, they're all variations of the same story.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, you guys all have variations. It's this thing. This is the thing about religion to me. Just like anything else that has power or weight, everybody wants to claim it as their own. So even if there's truth to these stories, it's just about everybody wants to stake claim. Everybody wants to be part of something that's good, right? Or something that's hot. So it's like, if these stories are real or if these concepts are real, everybody's so into like, it's me, it's our version that works, that I just detach from anybody that, It's like when someone tells me, I used to have a lot of Mexican homies that would be like, "Why do you kick it with these black fools? Why do you kick it with these white fools?" And, the raza needs to stick together. Anybody that comes at me like that, that's who I X out. You know what I mean? I don't care. I work with anybody of every race, and I care about all people of all color all the time. And so it's like, to me, a friend is, it doesn't matter what race you are. I'm not going to be more friends with you because you're Chicano.
Hey, man.
You know what I'm saying?
I think that people mistakenly associate racism with white, with white people are racist. But there's a lot of racist Mexicans, dude.
Oh,
there's a lot of racist everything,
A ton
right?
of racist. Yeah, there's a lot of racist everything, for sure.
Yeah,
and I think that the fallacy is it's white people. There's a blanket racism, a blanket of racism covering that particular race. But dude, there's so many Mexicans that are like,
Yeah, I mean,
when it
How
all
many-
comes out of insecurity.
Yeah.
My dad grew up, in the 70s here, and according to him, my dad and my mom, there was a couple of times where he had fights with black dudes, right? So my dad's from Mexico, never kicked it with black people ever, comes to the United States and is like fighting with black fools.
Yeah.
Like, so of course I grew up and my dad's like, "Hey, black people are whack." You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, we grew up in a black neighborhood and he's like, "Yo, be careful of this." And I'm like, "Nah, they're cool." But, you have to grow up with that. That's my dad's instilled that from his, just based on
it's
what
the
he
shit
went
that
through.
what they went through and what they were taught and
Yeah.
told by their parents.
Yeah, for
just
sure.
like the whole thing with be afraid of marijuana, be afraid of black people, be afraid of blah blah blah. Which is
I'm not afraid of black people. You know what I mean?
You shouldn't be afraid of
No,
black
no,
people.
I'm
You
saying,
know what I'm
like,
saying?
yeah.
Like, yeah, that's what a lot of people like. There's people that we talked. I have a podcast that I do with my son called the Yo 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 podcast. We did a huge segment last week on the new race training that Coca-Cola's doing, where they literally said, try to be less white. you know, which is
That's funny.
fucking crazy.
We should all strive for that.
You know what I'm saying?
know.
And so then we just went off and we said, you know, can you imagine telling somebody that's Mexican, try to be less Mexican, try to be less black, try to be less Guatemalan, you know,
I don't
try
think
to be
they're
less.
the first like corporation who does that, because I work in finance, like that's my day job. And I used to work at a very big bank, and they erroneously sent me a script, right? Because I was a manager, and it was how to talk to Latinos versus how to talk to Asians. And it was so racist. It was like, Asians do not like to put their money in the bank. You need to tell them Latinos have their money in their house. Like, it was so racist.
Oh, me no like money in bank.
Yeah, it was crazy.
You know?
And they were like, on the Latinos, try to speak about some spiritual experience, about church. And because, you know, we're brought up to be very scared of and do what God wants. So I was like, what the fuck? When I
have
got
issues
it.
putting my money away. Yeah, I'm always like, I have a Bank of America card, and I'm always like, should I take this money and put it in the Bank of America? What if they take it from me? What if the government just says, you know, it's
a cycle, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of like a cycle of how you're
it's
brought
instilled
up,
in you.
and
Yeah.
You can't trust the vaccines. You can't trust the banks.
Yeah.
You can't trust the police. You can't trust. And look, a lot of that is rooted on facts, because there was people that got fucked over by, you know.
I grew up with police throwing me on top on a 100-degree day. I grew up with police throwing me on a hot car, burning my arms, stopping me, accusing me of stealing my own father's car. I mean, when you grow up and have those just one or two incidences like that, then that's all you need to be like, fuck the police, you know, they're fucking. So it's like, I mean, it's like I said, if my dad had instances of fighting some black dudes, and then he's raising me like, of course, you know, this and that, and I have to learn on my own and be like, you know, even Mexicans though, I got bussed out. I graduated from Pacific Palisades High School. I got bussed out to Pali, and that was my first experience being a Mexican from Mid-City, of having friends from East Los, Southgate, and different parts where there wasn't black kids. So when the Mexicans would see that I was all buddy with black kids, they would be like, there were Mexicans from different cities that didn't grow up with black kids. And so they would be like, why are you kicking it with all these black fools? And I'm like, because I grew up with them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like really regional. If I grew up in a neighborhood that was all raza, then maybe I would have had a different perspective on
the guy
on
who
people,
babysat
you know?
me when I lived in Linwood was my neighbor. He's still a good friend of mine, Brother Jason,
Mm-hmm.
Muslim. We used to walk I specifically remember walking on Long Beach with him, and he had a huge Mastiff, and we were walking, and a cop, I was like 8 or 9, and a cop pulls, this is the guy who took care of me all the time, like super cool, right? Now that I realize it, very progressive for his time. And we were walking, he had dreads, you know, whatever. And the cop pulls us over, and he tells me, are you okay? And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm a little kid. And I'm like, what do you mean? And Jay is telling him, hey, she's my neighbor. She's, you know, this is my family. And the cop tells him, shut the fuck up. I'm talking to her. And I'm a little kid. And the cop tells me, do you know him? And I'm like, yeah, he's my neighbor, you know, because you grew up, and I didn't really he was my neighbor. He was black, whatever. He was my neighbor. Then, of course, you go to high school, and then there's racial separations because of a lot of other things. But at the time, I was like, what is this? You know, like, oh, this cop is crazy. Like, what is this?
Yeah. Well, it's just, you know, that's what I'm saying. All of us have to get over whatever institutionalized preconceptions happen and then everybody's particular family.
Yeah,
You know
for
what
sure.
I mean?
I mean, my brother's a cop now. I just want to say. So I don't think all cops are bad. I don't
No,
think
correct.
I don't think all cops are good. I don't think all cops are bad.
But just like everything,
Yeah,
just
I think
not all
it's
Mexicans
very-
are good.
Yeah.
Not all whites are good.
like-
Not all whites are
witches
bad.
I used
Not all
to
witches are bad.
feel a certain way about cops, and then one of my friends, Ricardo Lazaraga, was a cop, and he got killed, and
guy
he
in
was a
Downey,
good
right?
guy, and it was like, man, that was a good guy I grew up with, and once again, it takes you have to grow up and understand for yourself that not all Mexicans are good, not all everything is good, but you gotta. It's really about the individual. You know what I mean? I have a lot. If I would have let people tell me not to be friends with people of other races, that's just not me.
You would have missed out on a lot of things.
I'm the kind of I've always been an independent thinker. Even my parents. I love my parents, but I don't listen to them. I love my parents to death. If I would have listened to my parents, I wouldn't have made music. Because when I started making music, they were like, hell no, you're our firstborn. You need to go to college, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, no, I need to do this. and I fought for about 8 or 9 years of poverty and stress, and finally it took about 9 years for them to accept that I was gonna, it took something really big. 9 years later, finally, I have a band called the Visionaries, and we did a record release party at the Troubadour, and it was sold out, stage diving, the whole nine. And finally, after 9 years of struggling, we did something like that, and my dad finally looked at me and was like, okay, I understand what you're doing. Like, it took something like some kind of dream moment to
the Troubadour. That's pretty fucking
that's
awesome.
Oh, dude,
It's one of the
stage
most iconic
diving.
places
Yeah, but it took something like that to like finally, as Chicano parents wanting you to, I never was good at school. I went to West LA College for a little bit, but at one point, once I got out of high school, it was like a job, school. What am I gonna do? I had to choose. I chose work and music, and then I had to give up school. I felt like I couldn't do them all at the same time.
Earlier you said that you've traveled to like 20 plus countries.
Yeah,
and that really opens up your mind. I mean, when you start looking at, I've been fortunate enough to see other countries as well, and when you come back, you realize just how small your world is, and how small the world is. Period. And it just opens your mind to a whole nother level. And I think that you are a prime example of that because, dude, for not going to school, like you say, you are extremely freaking intelligent.
I barely graduated high school. I mean, they had to show you how barely I graduated from high school. Graduation was on Friday, and I knew I was graduating on Wednesday.
Dang.
They had already told me I wasn't graduating, and I had to stay at school doing the whole extra test and like, one shot. I had to like. I barely graduated. They did me a favor and graduated me. So to go from there and to barely go to, college, and to be to where I am now, where I get to like, there's times where I teach poetry at Locke High School, or like I give speeches at USC. You know what I mean? Pre-COVID, but all that. So it's like to go from there to where what I can do now. It's like, it's just I didn't need a certificate.
And I think, unfortunately, I think a lot of immigrant families put such a high value on that certificate that it actually stuns people from moving forward. You really think that you can't do shit without that degree. And sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I agree. I argue with my sister's a current student at UCLA getting her master's in Chicano studies right now. And I tell my sister, like, I love you, and it's so beautiful that you're getting a master's in Chicano studies.
It's big.
But you need to think about the future, about maybe that career being inundated. I think about the future. I'm so always thinking, I always tell my sister, the future is robotics. The future is AI. The future is cybernetics, So I always tell tell my sister that all the time. Like, it's so beautiful that you're doing that. But I always tell her, like, keep one eye on making sure that what you're doing doesn't get inundated, because someone like me that barely graduated high school, and I have a lot of friends that didn't graduate from college, and there's a lot of people that get masters, and then their job, when they finish doing something like that, they realize they can't get a job in the field that they want.
Yeah.
I think that happens a lot, right? And then certain things become obsolete, right? Like my son wants to be a paleontologist, okay? So we have this conversation every day. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome. But you should learn how to do robotics, and maybe you could build a robot dinosaur, and then that's going to be how paleontology is, because it's not going to be.
That's where I am with my sister right now.
Yeah, it's not going to be what you think it's going to. He's 12. It's not going to be where you think it's going to be. Like, you have to look, because things are changing, right? They're evolving. And I don't know if the aliens are coming next year. I don't know what's happening.
They're already here.
Right? I don't know. I don't know if they're going to come out. I don't know what's happening. So it's all going to evolve, right? Just like religion evolves. Before it was very like persinados, and now there's a million witches on Instagram, or so it's kind of like,
that's what I am with my sister Nancy. I always tell her, I'm like, I'm proud of you, but I'm like, just have one eye on the fact that what you're doing could be very inundated.
How old is your sister?
She's like, she's like 41. She's barely like third year UCLA right now. She went hard. It took her forever to really get to that point.
And I'll tell you, like I said, it's so like ingrained into us by our parents. Tienes que ir a la escuela. You have to go to school. You have to do this. You have to do this. And the reality is that what you do is you end up accruing a lot of debt. You end up coming out and facing the world with, sometimes, depending on where you go, anywhere from 20, 30 up to a couple $100,000 in debt before you even set foot into the world. You know,
all that I've explained to my sister in immense detail. But you know,
there's a great lecture by a philosopher named Alan Watts, and it's called "Society is a Hoax." It is fucking brilliant. If you ever get a chance to check it out,
sounds interesting.
And share it with her, because it everything that you're saying, this man was saying very eloquently back in the day, and he was screaming that back then. You know, again, just like Timothy Leary with the LSD. You know, basically telling people, fucking this college shit, stop. It's unnecessary. You know, and which leads me to the whole LSD thing and spirituality. And I don't know if you've messed with LSD, but you're open about you've shared stories about mushrooms.
Not so much LSD. I was always scared of LSD. But mushrooms and most recently DMT. I've definitely DMT is actually part of my life now, a lot more.
Part of your life.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I take it. I make sure that I always have some. I share it with people.
What does it do? Tell me.
How does this go? DMT is like
What do the initials stand for, by the way?
Dimethyl-tryptamine, something like that. Dimethyl-tryptamine, and basically DMT is like, in my personal experience, it's like hitting a spiritual jackpot. It reminds me of when you take DMT. It's like, imagine a slot machine, right? Like, you imagine hitting a slot machine in a casino for like $1 million, right? And it's just like bling 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 bling, but it's of color, and it's of texture, and it's very intense. It lasts about, for me, usually it lasts anywhere from 6 to 9 minutes.
But they say that those 6 to 9 minutes feel like a lifetime. Is that not accurate?
I don't think they feel like a lifetime to me, but it's the moment it hits. I mean, the second it hits, it's just like you hit it, and then it's like it opens another chamber in your mind, and basically you succumb to it, and it teaches you to be quiet. It teaches you to watch it. Every time you see these colors or some beautifulness, your mind wants to be like, oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful. And as you're saying, oh, that's beautiful, it takes it away from you. So then it teaches you to shut up and just watch it.
Be in the moment.
Yes, instead of constantly being like, oh my God, those blues. Oh my God. No, it's just like, be quiet. And so to me, DMT is like, it teaches me to be quiet, to pay attention, and it teaches me that there's somewhere else to go. I think that's the one lesson that I learned from DMT. It tells me, like, there's another place to go at some point.
So are you like microdosing? Is that what it is? It's like microdosing?
No, I don't take it that often. No? I at one point I got blessed with a large quantity, and I did experiment.
I love it. I got blessed with a large quantity.
At one point I was like,
who are you friends with that are just blessing you with a lot of
native brothers? Native. My brother Sky exists from the Pachanga Res. He blessed me with him and his brother.
I was just about to ask you now, where is the origins of DMT? Is it in a lab? Is it natural? Is it
our body produces? From what I know, our body produces it every night when we dream. Yeah, it produces it. It's kind of like dreaming while you're awake. It's pretty interesting, and so it's they call it the spirit molecule. And supposedly, obviously you don't know this because it's something that they say that when you pass. Sorry about that. They say that when you pass. That when you die, your body, it gives you one, as you're dying, supposedly your body gets one shot as you're dying.
Oh, I think I've heard this before. Like right before you die, you get one shot of that so that you don't fear it, so that you're able to pass. I have heard of that.
So it's kind of like, so you kind of do this and it's like very intense, it's very intense. And I got blessed with a large quantity and I started using it every day for a minute. And then it actually taught me to not do that. It teaches you to not abuse it. Oh, wow. So now I have I have it, and every now and then I don't even fiend for it, but like somebody will be interested in it. The other day, if you saw my internet, one of my homies was interested in it, and I was like, I'll do it to show you that it's safe. And me and one of my friends took it. He saw that it was safe. He manned up. He did it. And then as soon as he did it, he was like, I can't believe I was scared of that. That was beautiful.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
Almost sounds like Jack Herrera when he, the dude that was anti-marijuana all his life. And then he got divorced and started dating a hippie chick. And she goes, you have all these strong opinions on weed. Have you ever tried it? And he's like, no. She goes, well, maybe you should if you're going to have that many freaking things, so much to say about it.
Have it based on facts.
So when he tried it, and he's like, I can't believe that people freaking said all the shit that they said about it. And then he devoted his entire life to educating people on cannabis and hemp. But the natives use DMT?
Well, these brothers do. You know what I mean? Like, these brothers do. They take it a lot. And so they were... they blessed me with it. They were like, oh, I have access to it. And I would do it randomly with them. And then one day he gave me like a quantity.
How do you consume it?
It's in two forms. Right now in the modern day, you can actually get it in a vape pen. There's a vape, DMT vape.
Wow.
But it's really a powder. And it's a sketchy powder, bro. It's like off-white. It looks like crack, bro. It doesn't it's very very chemically. It's something that like you wouldn't... I personally... It's something you would do privately at the house, you know what I mean? Because it's not something like, it just looks sketch. It looks very sketch, you know? So it's like, it's like an off-white powder. And
do you know how much to take? Like, as far as like...
I sprinkle it over...
Trial and error, kind of?
I sprinkle it over some weed. I sprinkle it over weed, and then I take 3 hits. Try to hold it in the most you can. If you can get to 3... Sometimes you don't get to 3. Sometimes the first one or the second one, it started. So then you just close your eyes and lean back and let it take you. And you just feel like you feel wonderful. Even when it's over, you usually feel 2 or 3 days of happiness. Just it leaves a residue of like happiness, you know.
You said that's what makes you like know that there's something else when you're gone.
It makes me feel like there's somewhere else to go. Like there's another room to go. There's another place. Like I feel that death. The reason we're so scared of death is because it's the great unknown, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel like, I feel like DMT helps me see that at some point we just transmigrate into another thing, and there's somewhere else to go. That's how I feel from my, and I've taken DMT maybe 100 times.
100 times?
Oh yeah.
Over what length of time?
It was all last week. No.
I'd say 100 times over the last 4 years, 3 or 4 years.
25 a year average.
Yeah. I don't know. At one
So
point,
that's twice a month.
Twice a month, more or less.
Yeah. So it's and like I said, I took it a couple weeks ago, but I don't feel the need to take it today or tomorrow. It's not you don't fiend it. It's not like you're not going to it like I need it. It doesn't have that. It's not a drug like that. In fact, they call it, for some reason they call it the working man's drug. You could actually take it, and as soon as it's over, you can jump in a car and drive to work. Like there's no brain degeneration, which is probably the most important thing about that drug, is that I don't feel like there's a brain degeneration to it at all.
And there's no like, have you ever taken it and then instead of seeing like nice happy colors, it's opposite?
No.
Or is it always just positive?
It's never not been a positive experience ever. There's no darkness to it. There's no like monsters or weird shit that happens to me.
Yeah, because LSD can do that. How about like what's that other one in South America?
Ayahuasca?
Thank you. Ayahuasca.
I've had one opportunity to do it,
but
I hear that you throw up when you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, it makes you violently sick sometimes.
Yeah, so at the one opportunity that I had to do it, I kind of backed out of it because I was like, oh, I don't feel like vomiting right now.
But it almost sounds like the same experience as DMT, except a little bit more intense and longer lasting.
Intense, yeah.
Well, I've seen a lot of people cry on ayahuasca and feel bad.
Well, that's the thing, is that these things should be taken seriously, like in ceremony. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's what I learned as I started taking it casually. I realized, well, this isn't a drug like that. Like the party.
Not a party drug.
It's not a party drug. You should have respect for it, and it should be taken in some certain ceremony vibe, And I find the times that I've taken it, like I said, it's either to put somebody up on game, or when I felt like I needed it, you know. So yeah, I'm very. I have some on me. I have some, but I'm very respectful of it. Like I said, I can go months without taking it.
Um, besides the DMT, you've said you've messed with mushrooms. What and have you messed with peyote at all? I'm trying to think of all the different
a couple
hallucinogens.
times. For me, it's all about access.
Sure.
So it's like I'm not looking for it. So it's like, once again, with the peyote, I've done peyote about 4 or 5 times, and every time has always been because it was offered, and I was in a position to do it where I was like, okay, I've got hours to do this, you know what I mean? Or like I was on a reservation or something that felt like the right moment. I'm not going to just take it because it's offered, you know?
What is the peyote experience? Because you pretty much described the DMT experience in a way where it's like, I'm not fearful of it. You know, I've always been curious about it. But as far as like peyote, what's the peyote experience? What's the mushroom experience for you?
The mushroom experience is definitely one that I'm more comfortable with out of all of them, I guess. You know, I mean, you are poisoning yourself. But
good times.
Yeah, good times. I take mushrooms. That's something I'll be in the streets at someone's house or somewhere in the streets, and someone's like, I got some, and I'll be like, I'll take it, and just because I feel like I'm in control. I can be in control of it.
Can you take high doses of it?
I try not to. You know what I mean?
So you kind of keep that microdose?
Yeah. No. I'll take half an eighth or something. It depends on what they look like, man. These drugs these days are like, I mean, they're beautiful. Like mushrooms, you know, you look at some and they're just gorgeous, and you're like, nah, this is gonna wreck me if I go too nuts on it.
Bro, so they got like freaking chocolate mushrooms and chocolates now and things like that.
That's the problem, right? Like if I feel like maybe mushrooms in the 70s, okay, but now there's so many different strains and things are so like.
Well, they're created with much more effort and much more knowledge. So yeah, they are stronger. So just like weed,
that's like marijuana, right?
But at the
like
end of
weed.
the day, it's the psilocybin, right? That's the active ingredient, and how much of it is it that you're getting?
And that's on you. You know what I mean? That's
well, there's no way to
do.
really. I mean, I have a friend who works as a cannabis. He's the person who like certifies the cannabis. Like, there's no fungus on it, and He's like, I'm gonna be honest with you. What we check for is so minimal to what could really be going on, and the doses we don't know what you're really getting because it just has to do with the strain, what they grow it with, did they lace it?
Yeah.
So that's why now
I agree.
You know,
it depends. You know, when
maybe
it comes
in the 70s you smoke 2 joints, nothing happens. Now you smoke one, you're on your ass.
So you smoke a joint and you don't know if there's PCP in it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I feel it. But yeah, mushrooms is something that I took for years, and I think that's I like it. You know, you feel this translucentness at first, and you know, a lot of joy, a lot of laughing. Sometimes I would see in my most highest experience of mushrooms. Some of you guys don't know is my best friend in the world. His name was Danny Ramirez, call him Memo. He passed away in my arms. And he died in my arms while we were doing mushrooms.
Oh,
so
shit.
dude. So it was crazy because that happened, and as he
the mushrooms didn't kill him.
No. He had a heart condition. He didn't take care of himself. This fool was crazy. This fool was crazy. But rest in peace to that dude. But yeah, he passed. We started taking mushrooms. He threw up. He had a heart attack and he died. And as the ambulance took him away, the mushrooms started to hit. You know. And so about an hour later, we're in the hospital, and now, you know, it's family and you're just outside of the hospital. It's all, you know, people are coming and gathering. And literally, no joke, these are the 2 incidences. One is we're all outside and stuff, sad. My friend Memo, he literally, a guy that looks just like him in a gown, comes outside with like a cigarette this big. And he's like, you know, I need a light. People give him a light. We're just all looking at him like, God, he looks like our homie that just died. And he's like, anybody got a joint? I'm like, no. And he just looked at us. He goes, everything's going to be okay. And then he smoked a cigarette and he walked away. And everybody was like, was that him? You know? That's crazy.
And you were on mushrooms?
Yeah. But then look.
But everybody else saw him too.
Oh, everybody else saw him too. 1 year later, the exact anniversary of his death, my mom calls me. And my mom goes, how are you feeling? You know, you feeling good? You know, I know today's the anniversary of Danny's passing. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm fine, Mom. I know that, but I feel good. As soon as my mom, she goes, all right, just checking in. Good, Mom. Ding dong. Answer my doorbell. a friend of mine, his name is Fader. He literally just at my door, didn't expect him. He goes, dude, I just bought 10 pounds of mushrooms. Here's a pound. Just give me whatever for it. I gotta go. He just leaves me a pound of mushrooms on the anniversary. So we're like, okay. So we start calling. I start calling all my friends like, hey, today's the anniversary of Danny's death. Come by. Now 20 of us are on mushrooms. I'm sitting on the couch with my sister. I have my arm around my sister. I look at my sister and she's like, she's a wolf. That's probably the most intense thing I ever seen on mushrooms. Like my sister was literally a wolf. And I looked at my sister and I was like, man, you're just on shrooms, bro. It's just, obviously it's your sister, but she was like a sitting wolf. And that's probably as far as
Her head was the wolf.
her whole body. I was like,
Were you scared?
Yeah.
Or was it?
I wasn't scared. Like I jumped off the couch.
No, but like, did she look like friendly? Like
it was just a wolf, like the actual wolf, like was sitting on the couch next to me, and I was like, oh my god. I was like, dude, you're on shrooms. You're fine. And so
you talked yourself down.
Yeah, I got up and went outside, and but that was probably as far as visual, like seeing something that I thought was like intense. That's probably the most thing that I've ever seen like that. Usually it's just about feeling translucent and laughing and, feeling a little bit, you're
Well, didn't the natives take mushrooms to find their like spirit animals and shapeshift?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That was where it came from. Yeah. So that's like kind of coincides.
That's the most intense thing I saw as far as ever doing shrooms.
I've heard that it helps heal your DNA, both ayahuasca and mushrooms. Mm-hmm. That all the damage that's been happened from ancestral, traumas that are embedded in your DNA. The mushrooms are supposed to help with that. And then I don't know what peyote is like. The benefits of it are. I know that it made what's his name from the Doors, Jim Morrison, extremely fucking creative.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Peyote, same thing. It's like. It's a ceremony, I think, more of a thing, and it's like when you do it, it's all encompassing. I remember being on the ground, not feeling good. You know what I mean? I think some of these require you to feel sick. I think the first time, right? Just to.
Well, that's why I won't do ayahuasca. I hate throwing up.
That's what I'm saying. That's
so
why
I won't do
didn't
ayahuasca because I don't want to throw up.
I don't
like that feeling. So I would never.
DMT doesn't have that. DMT. I swear to God, it lasts 6 to 9 minutes, and when you're done, like I said, I tell people all the time, I would take DMT jumping in an Uber, like
because it's so smooth, right? You feel okay.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in control. It doesn't. You don't lose control as a human. So
do you feel like it makes you more creative, like as far as like songwriting? No, it doesn't do any of that.
No, because I've already hit creative apexes before I ever dealt with those things. I don't think it, just like weed, I don't need weed to be creative. It doesn't help. It doesn't hurt though, it doesn't hurt, but it's not a necessity. I don't think weed or certain things like this make you more creative than you are. I think you just are if you are.
Would you say that it taps into a spiritual realm that you wouldn't have tapped into without it?
Yeah, I definitely, like I said, it makes me feel like that we can transmigrate into other places. That's how I feel. Like I feel like there's other places to go. I think that's the best way I could explain it. I feel like there's other places to go
while you're still here.
No, at some point later, I think there's other places. We go there.
But can your mind go there while you're still here?
Because there's some when you're in that ceremony of using it, but then obviously you get brought back.
Because there's some people that do what is it, the astral projection, right? Where your spirit lives your body, and you could be somewhere else. Rodolfo Anaya, supposedly the writer from New Mexico, who was a brujo, right, a witch. They said that dude was able to like appear in different places.
Is he the one that lived with the Yaquis?
I think so.
I think he's the one that lived with the Yaqui Indians.
He wrote the Bless Me Ultima book, and then he had a bunch of different books.
Well, that's the thing. The thing is, like, when you do these things in ceremony, you go somewhere, but then you come back. I'm interested in going and never coming back.
That's a whole nother animal.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think that's just going to happen later when you pass, or when you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like going there, seeing that these places are available is cool, but I think at some point, when you see these other rooms, you don't just want to put your toe in it and come back, You're just like, well, at some point I'll be able to maybe go there.
That's funny that you say rooms, right?
Yeah.
Like, so the podcast is about spiritualism, and we had somebody on here, Michael, and he was he's a pranic healer. So he does a certain kind of healing, right? And he was saying how he sees rooms, right? He'll see guides and masters in rooms. And then I'm a santera, and we believe that you're born with a spiritual room, kind of. That's how we describe it too. So the fact that you're like, it's a room.
That's how I feel like it's another room.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
it's a room in your mind
level.
that goes to another place.
And people do say that before you pass, or when you have like a really bad accident, like a traumatic accident, you get this hit of euphoria so that your body doesn't shut down. So you'll get like...
That's what it is.
You'll get a hit of euphoria and you don't...
It's definitely a hit of euphoria. But you're awake. It's like dreaming while you're awake.
That's like childbirth, right? They say women have so many kids because you forget the intense pain because your body like separates, kind of like your mind separates from your body, or people wouldn't have so many kids because I had a kid, it hurts like hell. So I would, like it traumatized me. I only have one. So, but they say that, your body forgets that memory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Man, it's so these substances, I don't even want to call them drugs because a lot of them are natural, right? And they've been so villainized for so many freaking years, and they've been associated with people who are just like these crazy animals that just like to party and it's just associated with debauchery. But I think that the spiritual and growth benefits are way more beneficial than what they've been painted as being, So when you have somebody like yourself who can shed light on that, it's so fucking important to share that with people, know?
Well, I just try to teach people to not be afraid. I think we exist in fear on every level. I mean, I'm fearful of all kind of things, whether I want to be fearful of them or not, it's embedded in you. And they've done a real good job of, how do I say, conditioning us on, it's been preconditioned to do so many things. So it's, that's to not be afraid, I think, is something that it's so powerful when you're not afraid of death, or you're not afraid of something. To not be afraid
failure, afraid of being hurt, afraid of this, that vibration, which is, it's higher vibrations, that vibration of fear limits you to so many freaking things.
So when you're not scared, it's just like when you're not scared of anything, or not, I'm not scared of anything. Trust me, I'm scared of a lot of things, but to not be scared is a wonderful moment,
Well, they say if you're not afraid of your greatness, then it'll come. So you have to vibrate at that level like it's already here.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, sometimes I feel like I'm a vessel for things that there's song lyrics that I write that I'm like, why did I write this? I have no concept. I have no background to even say some of the rhymes that I'm saying. Like there's some things that just every now and then there's a verse that's just, it's like,
where'd it come from?
Dude, I have a verse on the new record, and it's like, directly and indirectly, consciously and subconsciously, either way the magnum opus has been accomplished. Through the practice of the absorption capacity theory creates an inevitable large-scale chemical reaction. Exponentially decreased number of awakened people exponentially increase the number of those that are sleeping. The truth enlightens you and not the opposite. The observer is the observed. Be a spectator. To get ready is the meaning. Your intuition is the next step. Understand that nothing is done by chance. To understand means you understand this world as the universe regards itself. Like, I wrote that.
That's a poem. That's a poem.
But what I'm saying is, like, I have no idea where that came from. Like, that has no, I have, like, where is that coming from? So it's like, I become, at this point, after 30 years of writing, sometimes you're just a vessel for a message, and you're like, I'm gonna not be scared to push this forward, and not even be like, I fully understand it. I just like, but it's this time it's not bullshit compared to like being young and just saying anything to make it rhyme. You know what I'm saying?
When you're writing, do you just put do you use pen and paper when you write, or do you use
nowadays? Not so much nowadays, but I used to, everything I would write rhymes on pizza boxes or any piece of paper I can get a hold of. My shit is like a stream of consciousness. So as long as the first line, the hardest part is the first line. Mm-hmm. So once you get to the first line, then everything will fall into place after the first line.
There's
Just
people
gotta
that
get
say
the
that
first line.
they start writing, and then before they know it, they're just going, and they're writing faster than
that's
their
how I
mind
am.
can think.
It's a stream of consciousness.
And it's
thing.
like, it's not like you're thinking, okay, what's next? You're just literally following, and the freaking pen is
as
just
long
doing
as
all
the
the work.
first one, as long as the first part, there has to be the cleverness of the first part, and then everything falls into place. You know?
Well, that's what spirit writers were, right? They would
Mm-hmm.
sit and they would meditate and they would like get possessed or whatever, but it wasn't like a weird possession. They would just calmly start writing things out, and they would say it was somebody else who took their hand and wrote things out for them.
Yeah, I feel
So-
like that's now that I'm 30 years in. I feel like that. You know, there's a lot of things I write that are just me talking about anything personal. But then there's those moments like that happen
That's
like
cool.
that.
You started music 30 years ago, and you just said your new project, your new thing. So you're still creating music. You're not.
Yeah. I'm always making music. This record,
Your latest record.
Ghostwriting Songs for God. Yeah, it's been floating around, most of these songs, for about 2 years. Like, I've been going through some little health issues and stuff, being diabetic and going through kidney issues and other stuff like that. So it's like that record has been floating around. I had random songs floating around, and then recently, a couple months ago, I was like, man, let's put this out already. So then I tied everything together, and then filled out the last 2 or 3 songs, and then just put it out recently. Just put it out on Valentine's, actually.
Oh shoot! A couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and it's doing good. It's like my fan base is really loyal. They're small, but they're real committed.
Yeah,
so
loyal.
yeah, my fan
mean,
base
his fan
is
base is
insane.
crazy.
Yeah. One of our taglines is, one of my albums is called "My Fan Base Will Destroy You." So that's like a tagline that we have. So my fans are really intense. You know, they're small but strong. So
Where can they find your music? All over the platforms like Spotify.
no, you know what? I mean, some of my stuff is on Spotify, but I'm very loyal to a website called Bandcamp.
Bandcamp.
The reason I am, because the thing about Bandcamp is, every time you download a record off of Bandcamp, let's say you buy a record off me for $10, within 5 seconds, $8 go into my account.
Oh, they're quick to
They're
to
just-
support the artist. They're not holding
they're
your
just
money.
Like, they don't. Well, just Spotify and streams and all that bullshit. Like, you know, like, I've got to get 1 million streams and make $1,000. I'd rather sell 100 records and get $1,000.
Beautiful.
So it's like Bandcamp is. So all my shit's on 2mex.bandcamp, and I put all my records on that.
2mex.bandcamp.
Yeah, that's pretty much the hub of where you could find about.
And you have a new shirt, right?
90%. Oh yeah. We
Yeah.
always put merch. There's a clothing company from San Diego called Chula Clothing,
Uh-huh.
and every month we put out like a limited edition shirt. So we put out a shirt for 2 weeks. People buy it, and then we just every month come out with a new design. So we just did a shirt for the actual record.
Yeah, I'm gonna order one for my son.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna order
I appreciate
one
that.
for my son.
But yeah. So I just keep putting out records, man. I've got 20 something records out. So I just keep making music. Whether I'm not worried about selling a lot of it, or, you know, my fans. As long as my fans have access to it, then I'm happy. You know what I mean?
So do you ghostwrite? The stuff that you ghostwrite is mostly like, I think, to like pay the bills, and then the stuff that you push out,
I used to
right?
ghostwrite for like Snoop Dogg and stuff like that, like different people, and anything I could sell, you know, do music for movies and commercials and stuff. We just did a commercial for Nike Air Force Ones.
Okay.
I've got a beautiful song that came out that's gonna be on the Air Force One commercial. That's cool. So yeah, I used to do a lot more commercial work, but now it's just kind of like, now when I write for people, they're friends, you know? Help write just stuff for friends, you know what I mean? Sometimes people need something punched up or something, so I just help them. I'm an all-around writer, so I like to be able to help contribute to people's album, name people's album for them, or give them a clever title or something.
And you also make the music as well?
Not as much anymore. I used to
No.
co-produce, but I have a lot of talented producers around me. I got lazy. You know, technology and beat machines and all that. I'm not into Pro Tools. I mean, I'm into that, but I've never been that.
It's a different freaking world now,
you have to
man.
be a nerd. I'm not I have so many friends around me that dedicate themselves to beats that it's like there's no point. I'm happy to just rap.
Out in Wilmington, Antonio Aguilar, Tony the Wizard.
Tony.
Yeah, Tony. I went to.
I was on his podcast. I think last year.
Tony, I went to school with Tony. We did. We were in middle school together for many, and I didn't know that Tony the Wizard was Antonio Aguilar.
Oh, that's
Well,
fine.
isn't Cuco from Wilmington? No, San Pedro. Maybe not.
The singer. I'm not knowing. I'm gonna stand up by the way. Don't mind me.
I don't know. You're good.
Oh yeah.
I think he's from your area too. He's really
Harbor
interesting
area?
too. Yeah.
Cuco.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, that
Cuco's
guy's
from,
tight. Somebody
Yeah.
put me up on him years ago. He's doing like oldies, right?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
weird, not weird. It's like new.
Yeah, like because he's like a new kid doing his version.
Yeah,
on it, right?
it's like very niche.
There's so many talented young.
So many young musicians.
Man, have you
out
guys
there.
heard that guy? I'm a big. I don't know. He's from Sacramento. He's this kid. He is so amazing. What is his name? Hobo Johnson.
I have
And
not
the
heard
Love
of Hobo
Makers.
Johnson.
Oh my God, you have to hear this
I'll
kid.
check
He is
him
like
out.
the perfect example of he's like a mixture of, oh my God, he's like a perfect mixture of an emo rapper mixed with Morrissey.
Oh, wow.
I'll
And,
listen
and
to
he's
him.
Chicano, and he's like
Oh, that's
really
cool.
talented kid.
I'm gonna check him out.
Yeah, Hobo Johnson.
Do you know back in the day there was a band out of San Francisco? I don't know if they're still around, but they were very much like it was kind of like rap and cumbias mixed into one. They were they remind me of also Motley a little. Los Mocosos. I don't know if you heard of Los Mocosos, but they were talking about gentrification and all this other stuff. Like back in the day, like there's a place out there in San Francisco, La Misión, the Mission, which was all Latinos, like the East LA of San Francisco, and then it just became gentrified.
That's dirty over there.
But now it's all like
tenderloin and shit.
yeah, and now it's all fucking expensive ass
It's
apartments
like
because
Barrio
of
Logan. It
gentrification.
was like super shitty and now it's super
That's
expensive.
where my
right?
people are. That's where my San Diego. That's where Chula Clothing. They're from that area.
Yeah,
Barrio
but it used to
Logan,
be all
Chicano Park.
And now
Yeah.
it's super expensive. Like you try to touch a property there, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
crazy.
yeah. Gentrification is no
Yeah.
joke. You know what I mean? But
It's
yeah, I
insane.
love I was always blessed. I did a lot of music with Ozamali.
Yeah,
Yeah, those are my brothers, man.
The drummer or the conga player.
Ulises is always.
Uli is the horn guy.
He always comes to the house, man. He's especially when I was sick, he would come by and say what's up. And those guys, they let me open up for them at the Fillmore. One of the highlights of my life, to be able to play the Fillmore, be with them, and it was sold out. So like I always have a lot of love. Also, it's really dope. There's times in my life where I'm just walking down the street in a random city like Santa Cruz or Chicago, Illinois, and maybe I'll be at my own show, right? And I'll just be like in Chicago, and I'll just walk by a marquee, and it's like Ozamali tonight. I'm like, what? They're here? And I'll just call them, and best believe I'm performing with them. Like I could just randomly be.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, they'll be like, oh yeah, you're here. Oh, you're in town. What time is your show? I'll be like, my show's at midnight. Oh, we're on at 9. Like, come by and do a song. You know what I mean? Like, just always blessing me. That kind of camaraderie.
I've been fortunate enough to meet them and work with them on a couple of different projects and stuff, and they are just class act, all of them, every single one of them. I've hung out with Uli more than
Yeah, I love Uli,
and Asdru as well.
Will Dog and all that.
Will El Gabachillo. But like like I said, I feel like a tighter connection with Uli in a sense. Just we vibe on the same vibrations. I think they're all cool.
He's a great
All
guy.
of them are cool.
Yeah.
Uli, I think we just have a lot of more in common and just a class act all the way
I
around.
think
All of them
Wonderful
are class
guy.
Their
act.
conga
man.
player's a santero, and his
Oh,
dad
yeah?
his dad is a drummer, a santeria drummer. So he's actually gone to my house and played and stuff.
Yeah, they're great guys. Bell, California, right? He's in Bell. Yeah, he takes. Yeah, we'll go eat sometimes, man. He's got a spot where they make like 100 different kind of tortas.
Nice.
So he's like, man, there's a spot where like there's 100 different tortas.
Hey, man, I know this is about you, but hey, man, a big shout out to the homies from Ozomatli and check out
I'm a monster
Ozomatli.
fan,
Nothing
bro.
but love.
In me and my friends' world in
Uh-huh.
LA, when a show, if we use Odomali as a code word, if you go to a show, let me tell you, if there's a show where there's adult women that are like Chicanas that are like over 25 and look like they have jobs, we say this shit is Ozomali.
He said, look like they have jobs.
We'll be like, what's popping with the show tonight? I'll be like, dude, this shit's Ozomali, bro. This is like a lot of adult Chicanas, like women. so we use that. I use that as a code. Me and my homies were like, this show's Ozomali, man. It's like, this shit's cracking, bro. It's like, because they're the sold out, nothing but adults, Chicanos that want to have a good time.
Dude,
Their crowd is like their crowd is amazing, you know.
Yeah.
They have a great fan
They have a
base
loyal
as well.
fan base, too.
También.
Yeah, I've always been blessed. I've known them since
Day
back
one?
in the day, since they were in downtown, like back in the day.
Yeah, I saw them when they opened up for Carlos Santana at
Oh,
the
wow.
Hollywood Bowl back in the
dope.
day. I think that was in the 90s sometime.
Yeah.
Had to have been in the 90s sometime.
Yeah, they've always been good to me, man. Like they've let me. There's times where they let me open up for them, and just randomly they'll be like, "Hey, we're playing, Riverside Auditorium. Like, you want to open up?" You know what I mean? So it's like they always pick every different cats from the scene and always give us little breaks.
They used to do a lot in that at the Starlight Bowl, and
Yeah.
they used to do a lot of stuff at the Starlight Bowl too.
Yeah, like I said, they let me open up for them at the Fillmore, and that was just
That's
pretty
huge,
yeah.
bro.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then so the show sold out, and so at the Fillmore, you know that if the show sells out, they put the poster in the building.
That's
So somewhere in the building, there's that, and I have a poster too. It's like one of my prized possessions. Just to I always give
congratulations on
them.
that,
Oh, yeah,
brother.
I-
That's a
cool.
huge.
Oh yeah, I go to Uli's house and I take his little Latin Grammys and I always take a picture with him like the Mayans and shit. You know what I mean? Always, every time I go to his house,
Dude,
he has like 3 Latin Grammys. I take a picture. I was like, I deserve these. You know?
There you
Grammy
go,
Award
manifesting
band,
it. You're
bro.
like, this is mine.
I front on the internet like they're mine. I was like, I deserve these. So always, they're homies, man. They're like real good guys.
For the people listening that aren't familiar with your stuff, what would you say? Go check this out. Like out of the stuff that you've created, what have you created that you're like, man?
Yeah.
If you don't listen to anything, listen to this.
So if you don't go to, let's say you don't go to the Too Much Bandcamp, maybe Bandcamp's not your thing. If you need to find something on Spotify, the record I would suggest is it's called My Fan Base Will Destroy You. It's on Spotify, and there's some of my records that are on all that stuff. But My Fan Base Will Destroy You. If you really want to dig into the Bandcamp, I'd say the album to get is called Lospital, like Lost in the Hospital. So there's an album called Lospital that's really good.
And you're on YouTube too. They have a few things on
yeah,
YouTube. You're everywhere, really.
My
You put
new band,
Tumex.
my band Visionaries just put out a new record called V, and the Visionary record is amazing. We have a Harry Allen, who's from speaking of Public Enemy, right? Harry Allen, who's they call him the media assassin. Harry Allen did the intro of our Visionary album, and to us, it's like we're just like on cloud 9 that Harry Allen did like a 2 or 3 minute intro for us.
Beautiful.
He's from Public Enemy, and we're just blessed, man. Our hip hop heroes, we put in a lot of work, and I've been blessed to make from idolizing KRS-One to making 5 songs with him. You know what I mean? From making all my dreams, as far as hip hop's concerned, all my hip hop dreams have come true. You know what I mean? I've made music with Kool Keith and all the people that I grew up idolizing. So I'm pretty much hip hop wise, music is a wonderful thing. You know what I mean? It's taken me all over the world.
Brother, congratulations.
And I'm blessed to be here with y'all, man, and be able to talk to y'all.
Thank you for blessing
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you for coming here. Thank you for sharing all the dope information that you have, and for being so candid about it. There's people that will try DMT, that will try mushrooms, that will try all those different substances, but they're very secretive about it. There's still some kind of shame to that. It's good to see.
Yeah.
I don't want to call you an advocate because that'd be like throwing a responsibility, but somebody that's willing to share and not keep it in the shadows. Where
I definitely, you can call me whatever you. I at this point in my life at 47, I think one of the most beautiful things is to not give a fuck about what people think about you.
I love it.
There you go. There you go.
Such a beautiful man. I wish I would have learned that lesson a lot earlier in life. So now that I learned that lesson, it's. I encourage people to not give a fuck about what anybody that doesn't love you, care about you, or is trying to build you up. They shouldn't even matter.
Right on.
I gotta tell you, I've been blessed with that gene, with the fuck it gene, and it's a blessing and a curse because it can also
Martin's fuck it gene is very well developed.
and then a lot of times you gotta know when to kind of turn it off a little bit. But I agree with you 100%. You can't let trivial shit mess you up and fuck with you. You do have to learn how to say fuck it. If you want to vibrate at a higher vibration and exist at that higher vibration, to be burdened with giving a fuck about certain things, you'll never achieve that ascension.
Yeah.
I
in
also
my
think that
opinion.
if you vibrate higher, like you automatically will be around people, the people who aren't at that level, right? Like, and they're worried about petty shit, they're just going to drop off,
Well,
right?
you
They're just
attract.
gonna
I think.
drop.
Yeah, I believe that you attract. Other than we're all attracted to people on a physical level, but I think vibration wise, it's true. We're, the higher vibration attracts.
Yeah, that's what they say, right?
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
vibe
Oh, yeah.
attracts your tribe.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
you
You know
go.
what? It's true. It's true. My band Visionaries. We have a new song out, and the chorus that my friend wrote, Tez, they call him Lord Zen. We can't persist with the problems; they don't exist in the outcome. And that's like
Oh,
the
there you go.
dopest chorus that we have on our record.
Say that again, bro.
We can't persist with the problems; they don't exist in the outcome. And he said
That's
and
beautiful, man.
that's the chorus of our song. And like to think that we can, I don't know, with all the music being full of shit and all this microwave popcorn garbage bullshit, to think that that's the
And the mumbling. A
yeah,
lot of
and to think
mumbling.
that that's the agenda that we can push now as adults, and that people all over the world are receptive to it. But yeah, that chorus, man, we can't persist with the problems because they don't exist in the outcome. I listen to that and just be like, damn, you're right, dude. Like all these petty problems that we have, they don't matter in the outcome of what we're doing.
That's
and so
awesome.
I think it's
And it's so easy for people to get caught up in the minutia of that shit that it stops them from moving forward.
well, you just said the word minutia. Like people don't even. I think there's a lack of worldliness that as humans people are just they're so limited in their vocab. They're so limited in their education that whenever they hear any ideas that are not the same old cookie cutter bullshit, their first thing is to be like, ugh. The youth
I don't
is
wanna
like,
do that.
yeah. Well, they don't want to do it because they don't understand it, and that's their own fear. And we live in a world where like they let you live. You can be 80 years old and ignorant, and that's the
Very
problem.
true.
Yeah,
For
so
sure.
that's the problem. It's like if you represent yourself, there's a lot of Chicanos out there that are like, we know that you don't sell a lot of music, and we know that you're not super popular, but they're like, you make us proud. And like to me, that's like to make people proud that they're Chicano.
Well, I think that's the thing with you, right? Like, I think that unless people are up on like game about like your records and then they don't know you, they probably think something different, right?
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
your name throws people off, like Tumex, right? They do
Yeah.
expect something different.
Yeah, yeah.
And then because everybody who I played your stuff for are like, oh shit, this is crazy. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you guys like have no clue. This guy's like,
I made the name up when I was in 11th grade, so we were like,
I
we're
was
too
just-
Mexican. We're too Mexican.
I was just about to say, where did Tumex come from?
my boy Memo my friend Memo that died in my arms. He named me. He was like, "We're too Mex, man. We're too Mexican."
there
That's
you
how
go.
simple it was. Very. So it's like that simplicity at the time. You think you're just proud to be. We're going to a white school, so it's like, oh man, we're too Mexican. Like we're proud to be Mexican, and so something as simple as that. Yeah, I can. It definitely in my careers. There's times that people think, oh, I thought your shit's gonna be like some fucking lighter shit or brown shit, or you know what I mean, or like.
And no disrespect to lighter shit.
No
around there.
no disrespect to the first wave of them.
Yeah.
But
Listen.
we purposely didn't it took us to a point where like if I want to make a song about a barbecue or like chill shit, I could do that now because I'm confident to do it. But there's so much more. I want something more. There has to be more. And like for us, we're complex humans, man. That's why sitting here talking to you guys, like I've always I fiend when I've been blessed to like let's say even like do Felipe Esparza's podcast or
The What's Up Fool
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
Big shout out
or,
to
shout out
What's
to
Up
that
Fool.
brother and people even Tony to Tony to meet Chicanos that are more critical thinking. It's like I fiend it because it's like, and that's why my audience when they find me, they're like, I've been fiending for this. Where's more of this? Because it's out there.
We're deeper than, the stereotypes.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes that's not obviously it's not projected out in the mainstream, and every time it is, let's say, when Culture Clash had a TV show or every time that something happened, it was very limited.
Sure.
Because they only let you have a piece of that shit. You know what I mean? They don't want you to they'd hate for you to take over because
for
they know
sure.
the power of us is we can we could take over, but we've got to always like You know, it's just the way it goes. I've had shows like American Latino feature me and then not show my episode because I didn't want to call myself American. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
After the feature, you know what I mean?
You didn't want to call yourself American.
Yeah. So they were like, all right, they'll do a whole feature on me, and then they'll be like, all right, cool, like just do this bumper for me that says I'm an American Latino. And I was like, no, I'm not. And they'd be like, well, scrap the whole thing. You know what I mean? So
now you identify as a Chicano?
Yeah, basically. I identify.
Which is a Mexican American.
Yeah. Well, just I identify myself as Mexican, basically. I mean, I just live in America. You know, I believe I do.
Where you landed?
I do believe that. Well, I just do believe.
I mean, not to be like, not to be
Oh,
confrontational or
Right.
but I mean, the Americas. I mean, we are American. Mexico is part of the Americas, right?
I guess I just didn't want to take that stance of like, man, look, I'm a Chicano artist. Just keep me like that. You know what I mean? Just don't always put that little extra. Well, I've got to put that extra little twist on shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's where I was more like, and it wasn't even a big deal to me, but yeah, I'm just saying I've been limited. There's times where I've been limited in the Tumex name, limits me and flip both sides of the coin. But at this point, at being 47 years old, having an established small audience, I don't give a fuck. I just care about the people I care
love it.
about. Yeah.
I fucking love it,
Yeah,
brother.
there's no need to worry about an industry.
Yeah, I don't know if it like limits you, but I definitely think that like you're so interesting to talk to. You know, that's
appreciate
why I
that.
hit you up, you know, and I was like, oh man, I wonder if he'll hit me up.
Well, I
you know?
saw you sent me the reference.
Yeah.
A lot of people always hit me up, and fools have podcasts that nobody watches, and like nobody cares. You know, like they're just my fans. Like I've done
They're
shit
like,
where
come
like
to my house.
yeah, and they're just like nobody will ever, no one will ever see this shit. So I looked at your thing, and it was professional and dope. And I watched, I listened to the episode, and I was like, oh, it's dope. And I knew quickly within a minute or two, just listening to what you sent me.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh yeah, you guys, this is legit. You know?
That's
Dude,
awesome.
I'm
Thank you.
super appreciative that you showed up. I can't say that I'm familiar with a lot of your stuff, but I'm definitely gonna dive in and take a look because it sounds like stuff that would fascinate me.
It's progressive, man.
And,
I try to make my people proud, bro. I just try to write with intelligence, and we don't hold back on, like I said, my first band of Mexican descent, me and Cholo Lancinco, we never sold a lot of records, but we influenced a generation of Chicano artists.
That's fucking beautiful,
Like
man.
even if you look at the show, what's that show that's on TV? What's the show? The Karate Kid show. What's it?
The
Cobra Kai.
Cobra
Cobra
Kai.
Kai?
So the little kid on there, the Mexican kid on there, his name is Cholo, and it's like he's named after Danny. You know what I mean?
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
man.
that's
It's
crazy.
like, and we like influence. We're like, I have a song that says, my name is Tumex. I know in your eyes I'm not a star, but chances are Kendrick Lamar plays my music in his car.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like we influence more people than we actually. We know that we influence them.
Yeah, for sure. Like Dilated Peoples talk about
Yeah,
you, and
that's
like
my-
a lot of people talk about you.
That's my voice on every Dilated People song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are my dudes. You know what I mean? So it's like we influence a lot of people, and we're happy with that. As long as we can continue to create art. At this point, it's not about selling it and making a profit. It's about getting it out there to the people that already care. Because there's enough people around the world with 1,000 fans, you could be a millionaire. If you had 1,000 loyal fans that bought every record and every shirt and everything, you could be a millionaire. So that's it.
Yeah, you keep saying a small fan base, but you have a strong
No.
fan base.
Yeah,
you have a really strong.
My fans are nuts.
Like,
bro.
especially like, because I followed you for a
Yeah,
long time,
yeah.
right? So like on my personal account. So like even when like you had the issues you had and you were in the hospital, like
Yeah.
these people were like driving down to see him. Like,
Oh,
how can I
yeah,
help
yeah.
you move?
I've been blessed.
Like I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
like
yeah.
just really help.
Oh,
me.
dude, when I went down, man, people. I mean, they made murals for me all over
Yeah.
in England, and you know what I mean.
Bro, that's I
it's a
like I said,
bless. It's a
when I found
blessing.
out you were coming, I did a little bit of research, and dude, people love your ass, bro.
Yeah, I'm blessed.
No,
man, I'm
seriously,
blessed.
you're a
Oh,
really
yeah, yeah.
well loved, well
Oh,
respected
yeah.
dude.
There's
man.
1,000 people with my face tatted on.
Yeah.
So it's like
Or a lyric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I try to be as humble as humanly possible, because those people, that alone, that's what I'm saying. Like those people, they feed me, dude, and they're my friends. Whenever we need something. Back in the day when we were more abusive of it, I would literally be like, I need a gallon of milk, and like 5 gallons of milk would show up to my porch. You know what I mean? Like, we'd be like, I want a bucket of chicken. You know what I mean? Like,
Uber Eats before
yeah.
Uber Eats and
Yeah,
shit.
oh,
He's
dude.
like,
We used to really, we'd be like, Yeah, my fan base is amazing. And when I went down and got sick, I learned that quickly. I mean, there was a time where there was a GoFundMe that was out there, and it gave me like 50 grand, and it like allowed me to live. It allowed me to pay rent for like 2 years in advance and recuperate. So, oh yeah, dude, even this prosthetic I have, like somebody gave it to me I'm the king of hookups. You know what I mean? People are just like...
And they're random, too. There's like... Because I watch your stories, and it'll be oh, it's okay. I have this. Like something random. I'm like, damn, your fan base is crazy.
Oh, yeah. My fan base is like, hey, I make sea moss. I'm going to bring you some. Hey, I your car's messed up. This is the greatest example. My car breaks down, right? My car breaks down, like I pop a tire or something, and I pull off on the side of the freeway, and then I put it on Instagram. I'm like, oh, shit, my car just popped. Dude, within 7-8 minutes, 9 cars come to help me. Like
that means you've affected them.
Well, it's just like that kind of stuff that's like, I use it. It's like a barter system. You know what I mean? It's like a barter system. Like those people help me, and they feel like I help them. You know what I mean? Whenever I could, I'll do whatever I can. When people are like, my mom passed away. Can you post this GoFundMe? There's a kid missing. Can you post whatever I can do? On my platform, I just share it with people, because if it could help them, it helps me, because people are like that with me,
That's cool.
So yeah, it's a blessing.
Yeah, no, like I said, when I dove into it, I mean, it's like, no, this dude's really loved, man, and it's a
blessing, man, and I appreciate you guys putting me on your platform, because then now I'm gonna be exposed to your people, and if they get into my music, most people that get into my music, they become fans. Yeah. So
dude,
it's a good thing.
Thank you for joining us, and well, like I said, I'm definitely gonna dive in and check you out, Thanya. It's always a freaking pleasure.
Likewise.
And thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Higher Vibrations.
Yay! Thanks.